There's a moment in every MrBeast video where the scale stops feeling impressive and starts feeling expected. $1 million on the line doesn't shock anyone anymore. Helping someone in need doesn't hit the way it used to. And that's not because the videos got worse, it's because the audience adjusted. When success is built entirely on going bigger, the baseline keeps moving upward. Eventually, the thing that made you special becomes the thing you're forced to repeat. That's the uncomfortable reality behind MrBeast. From the outside, Jimmy Donaldson looks like the most successful creator in internet history. Unlimited resources, unlimited reach, and an audience that shows up every single time. But underneath the performance is something quieter, a career that can't slow down, can't simplify, and can't afford to disappoint. Because when millions of people expect escalation, even doing the same thing well starts to feel like falling behind. To understand how Jimmy ended up here, you have to go back to the version of him that existed before any of this felt inevitable. Long before he became MrBeast, Jimmy was just another teenager uploading Minecraft videos to an audience that barely existed. His early content was simple, repetitive, and largely indistinguishable from thousands of other creators trying to break through at the same time. Gaming clips, commentary videos, and ranking intros. None of it stood out, and none of it grew. For years his channel sat stagnant, making almost no money, while YouTube itself was an uncertain career path. But while most creators treated the platform casually, Jimmy didn't. He became consumed by it. He studied thumbnails, titles, watch time, and retention with an intensity that bordered on the unhealthy. Even when the views refused to come, he kept uploading, convinced that success wasn't a matter of talent, but of persistence and optimization. That persistence eventually paid off, but not in the way most creators expect.
What I did was I somehow found these other 4 lunatics. 3 of us were college dropouts, 1 was a high school dropout, and 1, I don't know, he just quit his job. We all were super small YouTubers, and we basically talked every day for 1,000 days in a row and did nothing but just hyper study what makes a good video, what makes a good thumbnail, what's good pacing, how to go viral. We'd do things like take 1,000 thumbnails and see if there's a correlation to the brightness of the thumbnail to how many views it got.
Jimmy didn't improve by becoming funnier, louder, or more charismatic. Instead, he did something far more calculated. He stopped trying to be entertaining and started trying to be impossible to ignore. Rather than chasing whatever trend was popular that week, he began uploading videos that were intentionally absurd, from counting to 100,000 to even reading the dictionary from beginning to end. These videos weren't fast-paced. They weren't visually impressive. Most of them were borderline painful to watch. And that was the point. Each video created a psychological trap. Once a viewer clicked, they were faced with the simple question that demanded an answer. Is he actually going to finish this? The content itself didn't need to be good. Curiosity did all the heavy lifting. Viewers stayed not because they were entertained, but because leaving felt unresolved. That retention mattered more than likes, comments, or even subscriber growth. At the time, YouTube's recommendation system heavily favored watch time above almost everything else. Jimmy had accidentally engineered content that maximized it. People didn't binge these videos, they endured them. And that endurance pushed the algorithm to promote his channel far beyond his natural reach. What looked like boring content was in reality algorithmic bait. Almost overnight, the channel exploded. Not because the videos went viral in the traditional sense, but because they were mathematically favored by the platform itself. Jimmy hadn't just figured out how to grow on YouTube, he had uncovered a loophole in how retention worked online. As the views increased, the money followed. But instead of upgrading his lifestyle or hoarding the income, Jimmy made a decision that would permanently define his channel. He gave it away.
I was offered $5 grand for a video, but this is when I was 19, and it was so much money. It's Mom, look, and I was double it, and I'll walk outside and I'll give it to a homeless person, and they're like, no, you won't. And I was double it, and I pacing around my neighborhood for 3 hours, convincing this guy on the phone, just double the money. I promise the video will go viral.
The amounts were small. A few $100s to every delivery driver, a couple thousand to random strangers, donations to small streamers who genuinely thought it was fake. These moments felt unpolished and awkward, which made them feel real. There was no dramatic music or forced reactions, just confusion, disbelief, and emotion.
Another $1,000 donation! I'm trying to play the game!
something YouTube content rarely captured at the time. But eventually, Jimmy noticed something important. Generosity wasn't just compelling, it was scalable. Small donations became larger ones. Random gifts became structured challenges. Challenges turned into full-scale performances. Instead of watching a creator succeed, audiences were now watching ordinary people's lives change in real time. And that feeling was powerful. It created emotional investment, not just curiosity. Viewers didn't want to see the end of the video. They wanted to see who would win. As the scale increased, expectations rose with it. $10,000 stopped being impressive, then came $100,000, then cars, houses, private islands. Helping the homeless wasn't a one-off anymore. It became reoccurring content. With every upload, the audience grew faster than before. Subscriber milestones stopped feeling meaningful because they arrived too quickly to register. 10 million subscribers, a number that took creators years to reach, came in just 132 days. Eventually, the channel evolved into something even bigger. MrBeast stopped being a YouTuber and became a brand. That shift made it possible to launch products at a scale that would have been unthinkable for a normal creator. MrBeast Burger was the clearest example. Instead of growing city by city, it appeared almost everywhere at once, with marketing so aggressive it felt unavoidable. At its peak, the brand expanded to hundreds of locations across multiple countries in a matter of months, a pace that traditional restaurant chains usually take years, if not decades, to achieve. But rapid expansion came with consequences. Customers complained about the inconsistent quality, partners pushed back, and public disputes exposed how chaotic scaling at that speed really was. Online criticism piled up quickly. One viral tweet read, "MrBeast burgers might be the worst food I've ever paid money for. It feels like I got scammed because his name was on it." That framing mattered because it wasn't just about taste or price. The complaint centered on branding, on the idea that MrBeast's name itself had been used as a quality signal in a system where quality couldn't actually be guaranteed. Jimmy addressed the backlash directly, admitting that quality control across hundreds of locations wasn't simple. In response, he tweeted, "I hate that some of you guys had a bad experience. Ghost kitchens are hard, and I promise I'm trying to fix it." From a business standpoint, this highlighted the core issue. The brand's demand had far exceeded what was expected. With independent kitchens handling preparations and delivery, even small inconsistencies multiply into thousands of bad experiences, each one feeding back into public perception. What made this moment significant was how it broke the illusion of precision around the MrBeast brand. His videos are known for tight control, clear rules, and predictable outcomes, but physical products operate under entirely different constraints. When millions of fans interact with a system that relies on a third-party execution, the margin for error grows exponentially, and the trust becomes harder to maintain at scale. Feastables followed, a chocolate brand positioned as a cleaner, better, and creator-owned, selling out instantly thanks to Jimmy's audience alone. The early success was measurable and immediate, driven almost entirely by distribution power, rather than traditional advertising. But that success created a new kind of controversy, one that wasn't rooted in logistics or manufacturing. When MrBeast encouraged fans to tidy up Feastable displays in stores, the backlash erupted almost instantly. One widely shared tweet criticized the idea, saying, "It's wild that we're now celebrating people doing free labor for billion-dollar brands because they feel connected to a YouTuber." Others were more blunt, with posts joking that MrBeast just unlocked a new form of capitalism. The reaction spread quickly because it touched on something deeper than retail presentation. At scale, even small actions carry different implications. What looks like a harmless suggestion becomes unpaid labor when multiplied across millions of highly engaged fans, especially when the brand benefiting from it is already enormously profitable. The criticism wasn't about chocolate, it was about power, influence, and how far fan loyalty could be pushed before it was ever mentioned. And that's when the criticism intensified beyond products. people began questioning the giveaways themselves. Were they truly random? Who paid the taxes? And was generosity genuine when it doubled as marketing? When MrBeast released his video, helping cure blindness for 1,000 people, the reaction was explosive. One viral tweet accused the video of being poverty, arguing that help shouldn't need a thumbnail. Jimmy responded with frustration, tweeting, "Twitter would complain if I cured cancer. I'm sorry I didn't help 1,000 people quietly." The response captured the paradox of his content. Film the help and get criticized, don't film it and it never happens. Behind the scenes, criticisms took another form. Former collaborators and employees hinted at the exhausting work environments, long hours, and the relentless pressure. One widely circulated post claimed that working for MrBeast sounds like a burnout, disguised as a dream job. Jimmy never denied the intensity, later explaining that, "We do very hard things. This isn't a normal job, and it's not for everyone." That honesty mattered, but it also reinforced the reality behind the brand. At his scale, slowing down wasn't an option. The algorithm didn't care about burnout, and neither did the audience, both of which were trained to expect consistent escalation rather than sustainability. As MrBeast grew, controversy stopped being occasional and became ambient. Collaborators were scrutinized not for the intent, but for the optics. Sponsorships were questioned, not because they were unusual, but because any monetization now carried moral weight. Even side projects like Lunchly became flashpoints for debate, not because they were extraordinary, but because nothing attached to MrBeast could exist quietly anymore. At this level of visibility, silence creates speculation, and explanations create backlash. There's no clear response, only damage control. What makes this different from typical creator backlash is the scale of expectation involved. MrBeast isn't just a channel people watch, he's the benchmark for the platform to measure itself against. Every upload rests on what the audience considers normal, and every escalation quietly pressures other creators to follow. The result is an ecosystem where excess becomes the baseline, and restraint starts to look like failure. Yet, despite all of this, MrBeast's influence is undeniable. He permanently reshaped YouTubers' culture by providing that videos could function like blockbuster events, rather than casual uploads. Entire channels were built trying to replicate the formula, most of them collapsing under the weight of it. What they missed was the invisible cost, the obsession, the operational stress, and the willingness to sacrifice everything else to keep the momentum alive. MrBeast didn't just raise the bar, he raised the cost of entry. And that leads to the uncomfortable question at the center of it all. Where does this actually end? Bigger videos demand bigger risks. Bigger risks require bigger budgets. And bigger budgets leave less room for mistakes. Financially, Jimmy can keep going, but mentally, the pressure compounds with every upload, because the brand no longer allows for pause or retreat. But he's also proof that success, when pushed to its extreme, stops being freedom and starts becoming obligation. The real debate isn't whether Jimmy Donaldson is genuine or calculated. It's whether anyone could remain genuine while carrying the weight of an entire platform's expectation on their shoulders. And that may be the real price of being MrBeast.